Welcome to the UKVersus Great British Bake Off Retro Edition. I am Brett. I am back from a long hiatus. I'm currently in my own kind of transition zone. I'm currently setting up the new stream room. I am joined by Ace Maneuvers, who's going to be our celebrity judge for here. When you think of retro, you think of Sam. And of course, he's going to bring some peak universes in his selections.
Doing pretty good. I didn't know people think of me when they think of retro. I guess I did host one online retro event that got like 6 people to show up.
If I wasn't busy that day, I'd have showed up.
But I'm pretty excited to see the Bake Off up close and personal. I've got an ingredient picked out that I think will be a bit of a stumper, if I'm being honest. I don't think it's going to be super obvious what you can do with it.
It's definitely an interesting choice when you told me what it was. But our bakers today, we have reigning world champion and retro enthusiast Kevin Broberg. How are you doing?
Hey, I'm feeling good. Excited to cook.
We're also joined by UVS Hermit, new player enthusiast, and will be helping new players understand what's going on with these builds. How are you doing?
If I sound weird, it's because I'm getting over some hellish allergies, but otherwise I'm doing all right.
And I couldn't have a retro event without getting hold of the Dobbers. Connor is being the representative of the Dobbers and will be hopefully bringing a win home for UK Retro as it is. How are you doing, my friend?
I'm doing all right. You've hyped me up way too much. We should have got Murray.
Usually we have 2 judges, but unfortunately the second judge had to drop out. I did ask around for other judges, but then I thought, we went through an entire season 1 and I never got to give a prompt. And I feel like I was robbed. So although Sam will be the only judging, your round 1 prompt comes from me. For those of you watching and for those of you playing who have never done this before, the bakers will be given a card and or a prompt. They'll then have 30 minutes to go build a deck. When those 30 minutes are up, they'll present those decks to us. We'll go away to the judging table. Sam will come up with his decision. And then one player will go home. After that, we'll go to round 2, where Sam will be giving his special ingredient that the bakers will have to build around. And we'll do the entire process again as the finals. And one person will walk away with bragging rights of being the Bake Off Retro Champion. However, the bakers will not be left alone while they're baking. We will jump into the tables, ask them questions, and overall just be distracting whilst they're trying to focus on the thousands of cards in this game. So, coming from me in round 1, I'm just going to quickly set up the timer before I forget. I want something that you guys may have predicted because I'm not the most original, but I want the perfect first retro deck for a player who's never played retro. So something that can highlight the best parts of retro, but is also still easy to understand and won't break the mental load of a standard or newish player.
Okay, great.
I think I can do that.
Like I said, I wasn't trying to be original, but since we're doing retro bake-offs, this is a great opportunity to showcase retro, and I think it's an absolutely great prompt. I'll let you guys head off to your tables. You may select whichever table you want. Just one person per table, please.
So what exactly is the vibe like here? Are we going to be popping in and, sort of making fun of their creations? Do I get to call anyone a donkey? I mean, I've only watched so much British TV.
So British Bake Off isn't like Hell's Kitchen. You're more going in and just asking about the builds, why they made those decisions, what's going on with the builds. Kind of just going in and see what's going on. If you want to be the bad judge, if you want to go in there and be like, this deck's trash, why have you picked this, why have you not? You go for it. This is just a fun community little thing. If you want to go in there with that, you do you, man. You're doing this as a favor to me. I'm not going to tell you not to do it. It makes great content either way.
So, what makes a good retro deck in general is kind of in a funny place because we don't have competitive retro play, right? We don't have tournaments with tons of coverage and people really scheming for prizes, right? There's not a lot of open information about the metagame, there's a lot of people who make educated guesses, but I play against stuff that I never thought I would. It makes sense after I get paired into them, but at actual retro events, I see and play against stuff I never think that I will. So, and matches generally don't go as planned. For example, I played DGNet in Denver earlier this year, and every opponent I played against was like, "Oh my goodness, you're gonna put me in prison. This is gonna suck." They like assumed it was Quan Chi's fortress, and that they were just gonna be unable to play the game in like a normal way. And instead, the deck was just playing like really hardcore, solid defense. So they got to like I wasn't spending momentum for the DJ response, like ever, right?
Oh.
So the deck was just completely built differently than what is the quote unquote stock standard retro version of DJ. And DJ is one of the more popular retro characters. So like for people to even have a preconceived notion is pretty crazy in the first place. But that deck was not playing Quan Chi's Fortress. It was not trying to prevent you from resolving cards. It was just trying to block until you had enough characters where you could pump the speed of a move and turn the speed into damage with like a little 3-card combo. So what makes a good retro deck is a deck that has its own game plan. It is focused on its own game plan. It's not distracted by trying to cover all your bases. I think one of the mistakes people can make, especially for a deck that you would give to a new player, is packing it full of all kinds of revokes and cancels, like caught red-handed. You can now play Macho Concealment and Damnation together on some symbols, and like trying to overly tech for a metagame that isn't, fully realized, I think is where people might get tripped up, when in reality, you just want your deck to consistently do its game plan, which is the foundation for probably any good deck.
As it's for a new player, should the availability of the cards in the deck also be consideration? You don't want to put things like Trinity Geysers in there, or any of the cards that the players are not going to be able to go away and get themselves.
That's a good question. It's not one I really thought of. It probably would have come up if I did see some cards that were hard to acquire. I probably would have. It would probably set something off in my brain. So that's a pretty good question. I don't want to hold availability up too much, if only because I'm not even particularly sure which cards are that hard to acquire outside of like specifically Neomax Ultra Rares. There could be some cards that are hard to get a hold of, and I just, would never guess because of where it's at. Like Mortal Kombat cards are supposed to be like sealed boxes or almost sold out or something. I was told they were sold out at one point. So I don't know where we're at with like Mortal Kombat availability, and at the same time, I don't think Mortal Kombat cards are that hard to get a hold of, if you wanted to track down singles. But I don't know for sure. At that point, it's like, do we take price into account? If it's a new player and they've never played retro, I kind of assume that a friend is handing them the deck, that they're loaning it out, right?
But at the same time, it's supposed that when you give someone a loan a deck, they will. That's what they remember, so they might go and try and recreate that deck for them to build themselves.
Yeah, I kind of feel that way. I'm a digital gamer. I like to host some digital events where card availability is not an issue. And so I personally believe, and it's been my experience, just with stuff like MTG Arena and even playing like One Piece on a simulator and things like that, that the more I enjoy playing the game digitally, the more I want to go out and get those cards physical. So that makes sense, So that'll probably be like a tiebreaker. That's probably like a second or third tiebreaker.
So we're approaching half of the time. It's been great just chatting about retro, but we should pop in on some of these bakers and see what they're doing. Who would you like to start with?
All right, let's do it. Oh, we're scrolling past some of my favorite cards.
How much am I allowed to swear?
Connor's playing the person, not the game.
Yeah, we just happen to be scrolling past Team Fatal Fury, so those are my boys.
Right, we've hit the wall. Right.
So what are
okay,
you thinking for your build, Connor?
Right, so we're either on Zilla or we're on Goro, because I don't know how to build anything else. Right. So we're on Earth right now, and so you want to teach somebody new, right? So I was like, oh, well, they've both got first form, right? So you teach forms, right? They've got cool enhances, and then every attack to some degree says draw a card, which means you get to read more cards, right? Bar one or two that say flip and do some other janky stuff, but pretty much everything says draw a card. And then there's just the occasional few like cycle choices, right, that we'll justify later, mainly that one at the bottom, because stealing cards is also fun. But a 10 mid 12 coming at you and I've stolen attack off you in Goro is not crazy.
Well, that's of course it's Earth, and of course the Zilla boy is there for you.
Yeah, but it's actually working out all well. I realised that Earthbreaker is actually a really fun card in Goro. Cheeky bit of stun. Lots of draw options as well. A lot of good draw options. I was also potentially going to pivot to all at some point, but I'm panicking quite aggressively.
I mean, all is a
So
solid
it-
choice as well.
All might be the choice I end up switching to if I convince myself not to look at Zilla anymore. And I think I'm slowly getting to that stage. And then I'm just going to run an all draw package the way I used to.
It'd be a pretty late switch. We were already more than halfway through the timer, right?
That's all right. That's all right. If we're making the switch, right, we're going to all. We might not go to all. We might still be on Earth. We could probably still do Earth for most of this anyway. Most of it's Earth all, literally as well. So
I don't know. It seems pretty all or
Sure.
nothing.
all. Right,
I do see some attacks in here that used to be staples back in standard, but we've since changed some of the rules, and they're probably not as effective as they used to be. So I'll be interested to see if they make the final cut.
Oh,
Well, considering we are currently at 92 cards, some of them will not. Unless I go full cycle and this is like a 100 plus card deck. Goro win.
100 plus cards might be a lot for a new player.
That is true, but it's perfect time for them to read all the cards, and then they should be well versed.
fair enough.
That's
We'll
something
leave you
I'll
to it. Don't forget that you also need non-attack cards in that deck.
That would be.
Says who? Trial by fire. Trial by fire.
Well, since Mature got banned, you definitely need some. Right, well,
That's fair.
head back. Well, head over to
Yeah,
table
two
two.
boys,
Best
that's
luck.
Oh my, this is completely different.
Ooh, mimic.
Yeah, we're
Whiplash.
yeah. I hope so. You know, I hope we're doing something marginally interesting. Yeah. So my first thought, they say first thought, best thought, but my first thought was going to be drive tab. Yeah, I'm going to play Minash Shido, and I said, hey, it's giving me a taste of reversal. It's giving me a taste of some spicy, expensive stuff. But like the funny thing is that standard is much spicier and more expensive these days. Like, let's build a deck around Massive Mutant Machine. It's kind of not a great. I mean, you could be on Offhand Retro, but it's not so different. And so I'm building it up around Massive Mutant Machine, but in a different way. This is going to be a first Mimic deck, and part of the joke of Mimic is that we're going to let the players touch their discard pile and make some choices and be engaged with what's going on. And they're going to be playing a bunch of cards they haven't seen before, but they're going to be cards they can kind of understand. And a character they understand that has powerful effects. And also, we're going to be able to touch our opponent's cards a little bit with like Spinning Neck Card Driver and say, okay, well, what are your cards doing that need to solve some problems here? And then also we have a big, ridiculous top end finisher of the multiple keyword where add X momentum, gain multiple X, and start just dumpster people. It's ridiculous. And so they have a powerful game plan to play towards. And also, I got very excited when I scrolled through reversals last time. We can play Deflection Swing in Mimic. And so we get a little bit of taste of everything in retro here. We're going to get our opponent's attacks and get to see how cool they are when we hit them with them. We're going to have some multiples and some throws and some interaction, and we're going to have some novelty of these check cost donations that are going to let us make extra checks for Mimic and be able to find our response to be able to get whatever we want from it. Well,
It's a very interesting list of cards so far. Lots of power level erratas throughout this list. It's cool to see Mimic still getting some play though, even after getting the was it response commit on the once per turn?
He response commits now. Yeah, I'm committed to Earth for this because of the From Science play, I think, and also I'm getting locked in with Deflection Swing. I'm getting in bed with this card. This is extremely fun to me. But yeah, I'm sad about Sense of Morals power level errata because it looks incredibly spicy. Now it's just once per turn. Once upon a time it was truly insane. Now it's just merely very good.
No.
Is there any discrepancy about overloading new players with lots of the retro mechanics? It's cool to introduce them to these things, but having reversals and multiple together, do you think that might be a little overwhelming?
I think it could be. I think hopefully I'd be able to walk them through a game or two. And yeah, I think that's probably a valid angle to it. But I'm in bed with this idea now. I think, if we throw them into the wolves and say, hey, let's go compete in a tournament. Hopefully they can understand that, like, if they're jumping in deep and they might run into some interactions that are surprising. I certainly have asked several judges about like some intricacies of the reversal rule, and they were not. I think they thought I was joking when I asked them.
Yeah, I can see that.
It's definitely an interesting concept. The one thing that would kind of worry me is Mimic is already such a unique way to play. For a new player coming into retro, adding the retro mechanics on top of that unique way might be a bit overloading.
Yeah, perhaps, but I think I would trust my ability to unpack sort of I think the multi-keyword kind of. There's an intuitive answer to how it works. You put your launch into the card pool, right? And it's actually how it works now, I think.
No, they changed
the top of your deck now.
Yes,
yeah.
You spend the momentum, then add the top cards in your deck.
Yeah, c'est la vie. But I think the first thing I wanted to accomplish was to give them a taste of retro and to give them some, and to give them something powerful enough that like they could win a game, right? You can sit down and walk forward and see some success possibly. And give them some options, give them some ability to take some chances and make some mistakes.
No.
I can dig it.
Yeah, it makes a lot of sense to me. You've got just under 9 minutes left, so we'll let you carry on, and we'll head over to see what Cam's doing. Best of luck. Hello, Cam.
Hello.
So
How goes?
How's your build coming?
Just putting on the finishing touches and kind of wishing I'd started us some music before this started. It's been very lonely down here.
So, who are you building?
I'm building Sub-Zero from Mortal Kombat.
Okay, a starter deck character seems like a good approach.
Yeah, and it actually works into some stuff that I'm doing for my own channel. So this is a good way for me to get started. So thank you for your prompt.
Yeah, it's all good. Yeah, I see you've got the 2-check Hooligans Mulligan in there, as well as the reversal bug spray.
Yeah, something to introduce. I don't know why I'm gesturing. You guys can't see me. Something to introduce new players to some new concepts that are relatively simple, reversal and safe. Hooligans Mockery, and kind of just. Oh, I shouldn't be defending it yet, but kind of just taking an easy to get a hold of product and using mainly stuff that people would have seen from the My Hero set and forward, stuff that's easy to get a hold of and easy to get you started on what your character wants to do.
It's been a while since I've heard Mortal Kombat cards easy to get a hold of, but I suppose in the grand scheme of retro, the starter decks are not the hardest thing to obtain.
You can get the Mortal Kombat 2 player for $15 on RochesterCCG.com.
Yeah, I was going to say Mortal Kombat cards in terms of like the box is a lot harder, but the starters are a fair bit easy to get a hold of.
Exactly.
That's fair. I've been diamond handsing a Mortal Kombat starter 2-player starter box for like 7 years now, so I still got one seal. Okay, so it's kind of funny now. I don't know if I would even consider reversal like that retro specific, because we basically have an updated version, of that, of attacking on the rival's turn. So I don't think reversal would be too difficult for your average standard player these days. But there definitely was a time
a
where
little different because you don't have to worry about the drive or anything like that.
Yeah, I was also gonna,
right.
it's also a good way because there's no preventing drive outside of like effects that specifically go on the response of the enhanced. Whereas, but like this is also showing safe, which is something that we haven't really
Yeah.
mentioned.
Yeah, which could be played on both your turn and your rival's turn. If your rival had a reversal, they wanted to try to play like something that might get minus progressive difficulty if it's played as a reversal.
Yeah.
And it has the stun keyword, which is something Sub-Zero really likes and is just absolutely hilarious with this kind of package.
No, it's really something.
Plus, it's cheap and easy.
That's fair. I'm a big fan of bug spray in my own right. We'll head over to the lobby and get your thoughts on the free builds, and we'll see you all in 5 minutes.
Awesome.
Best luck.
Okay, so we got a couple different directions that they're going. I will say, UVS Hermit's deck looks the most like a normal Universus deck, but I don't know how much that should matter, because the way that we play the game has changed a lot in just the last year. The way that decks look are very different, right? We've got decks that are playing half their deck as backups with like 10 foundations. We've got more assets than ever being put into decks. Deck ratios are all over the place. There's 8 attack decks, there's 22 attack decks, there's decks with bunches of assets, bunches of actions, bunches of backups, sometimes all 3. But the Sub-Zero deck so far has the most normal outlook. But I will say the Mimic deck jumped out to me as being the most obvious what it's trying to do. But that's as someone who's very familiar with the cards in the Mimic deck.
Well, that's when it kind of jumped out to me like the Mimic deck might be overwhelming for a new player, but as you just said, the amount of things that have been introduced, the amount of variety in deck building we currently have, the Mimic deck isn't that different to a lot of decks that are currently in the meta or currently floating around with all the backups and all the actions, all the other variety of cards. So, yeah, it makes a lot more sense. I think Cameron Hermit kind of focused too much on the new perfect deck for a new player aspect, rather and is going, okay, let's keep it new player friendly. Whereas like Broberg has kind of gone, here's a cool character that was doing something cool in standard. Let me show you how cooler it is in retro.
Yeah, I think Hermit's deck seems like it'd be good for just like a new player of the game in general as well, which is kind of nice.
Yeah.
Daubers, unfortunately, we didn't get to know exactly where they're going yet. Their deck seemed the least complete, and there's only 3 minutes left. So I'm very curious where that one's going to shape up. Going with like the Goro Godzilla route is like perfect for a new player. Going back to what I was talking about earlier, it's better to focus on your own game plan than try to play a bunch of tech and a bunch of reactionary stuff, which that's probably where I'd really ding Broberg's deck or give it negatives if I had to, in the moment. We'll have to see what the finished product is, but it seemed like his deck was trying to have a lot of interaction, a lot of one-ofs, a lot of coverage, whereas I need, a new player to sit down and tell them, this is what you're trying to do with this deck basically every game, right? This is, if they stick with it, and they enjoy retro and they branch out and they want to press all the buttons and get really deep into it, that's great. But the prompt is like for someone who's just getting into retro. So we want to give them a deck that's very functional, right? We want to give them a deck that they're not going to make misplays with, and they probably won't even know where the misplays were. So
Yeah, and like so with the one-offs and the two-offs kind of thing, it lacks the consistency that new players are going to really like, and they want to be able to keep doing the cool thing, and having the full play set lets them do the cool thing more often, and that's kind of how you fall in love with retro, consistently doing cool things.
yeah, that's the big thing for me is a new player has to be able to easily identify the win condition. Figuring out how to structure attack turns has long been one of the hardest things for someone who's new to grasp. So maybe the real disconnect here is someone who has played universes before. It might not be too different, or it might not be too difficult, especially because again, a standard player, we have to assume that they've been playing since MHA1, I think.
Yeah.
To be fully fair.
So, Bakers, have you used your time wisely, or are you going to rotate out from this round? How are you guys feeling going into judging?
I think I got some feedback from the judges that I really decided to ignore, so I'm a little bit apprehensive, but I think I like where I like where I landed. I think I'm excited about this deck. And
Cameron, how are you feeling about your build?
I'm feeling great after I had to do some last minute edits after you guys left. Can you see the screen all right? I decided to do Sub-Zero from the Mortal Kombat retro set. You guys said you wanted something easy for newer players to pick up, so the way I approached it was I would take a pre-existing starter from retro that is currently available and easy to find on rochesterccg.com. Shout out. And I wanted to use not only just standard cards that helped this deck's game plan along, but retro cards that were also not sold out online on rochesterccg.com, so that this deck could be made easily for brand new players not to have to worry about picking up their cards.
So what's the game plan with Sub-Zero here?
So Sub-Zero loves stun attacks. He gives stun attacks damage, and if those attacks are then blocked, he forces your rival to discard cards, obviously making a very oppressive game plan. He's stunning down your board, he's discarding your hand, and he can flip his own foundations to seal opponents' assets and foundations and then commit them, so turning off all of their abilities. He's a very powerful control type character. Amazing. So I made sure that every one of our attacks, except for one in particular, has the stun keyword. And that includes Tri-Gravity Beam. Deadlock stun still counts. So that all of these attacks do wear his +2 very well. But then we also have Hooligan's Mockery, which can seal 2 foundations from your rival stage and get a big damage boost for each sealed rival foundation. And a lot of your, not only your character, but some of your other attacks and your foundation base can help this seal game plan. So even if you're not stunning, you're sealing, so you're really cutting down what your rival's able to do. It's a very efficient, very powerful, and very just oppressive starter deck style character. And I tried to make sure that everything was tri-symbol, except for Moment of Normalcy and Unsavory Morsel, because Unsavory Morsel is just really good. You can flip it to commit a rival card with no abilities, so anything that you've sealed, you can then force to commit. And the Moment of Normalcy is just amazing. But I tried to make sure that every other card that is not currently standard legal is actually easy to obtain, so that it is the lowest barrier of entry for new players into retro.
I just want to take a look at a couple of cards. If you can hover over Unsavory Morsel for me. I have to reacquaint myself with a few of these cards.
Thought it was a
Can I see Freezing the City?
Freezing the City.
Okay, that's the one I thought it was.
It's just free damage, and you can force your rival to seal their face-up ready foundations by sealing this card.
I can dig it. So I like the fact that you looked at card availability. That was something Brett brought up to me that I didn't think of initially. So I think having the card availability in mind for a player, this is very like content filled. If you were to put this deck in a video, you would want your viewers, I should say, to be able to go and actually build it. And I think that was very smart. How many cards is the deck total? I'm trying to do
It
the
is
count here.
64 cards, and I've got a
64.
pretty decent suite of the block modifiers here, or block zones here.
Nice.
But I tried to keep it as narrow as possible.
There's what, 8 cards without a block, which could be a
There's
little
the
tough for
revoke.
your. Yeah, that could be a little tough for your average standard player who didn't grow up with retro. Drawn into a non-block can be pretty tough there with like the Cryomancer's Descent and things like that. But that is a really, really good Sub-Zero card, and I'm sure you're aware of the errata on it.
But I think it's also, there are some cards in retro that are really good that don't have blocks. So getting into retro, you are going to kind of have to learn how to play around, when you have these cards that don't have blocks on them.
There are cards
So I wanted to
now
keep that to a
don't have
minimum,
blocks.
but keep them around.
We do have cards in standard now that don't have blocks, but for myself and other people who are not aware, what is the errata on Cryomancer?
I think it's actually not Cryomancer's Descent. I think they errated a different card now. that I'm
It is
looking at.
Cryomancer's Descent. The response, the Sub-Zero response is response exile instead of response destroy.
Yeah, it's
because there
removed.
was,
It's remove.
Okay.
That's
yeah,
what it was. Yeah.
If you can destroy, there's a loop with a Honky Tonk Woman that says build the top foundation for your discard pile, and then you
Yeah.
can untap this, and then you can unflip 2 Honky Tonk Women, and then
And just keep going.
create an arbitrary amount of value. Yeah.
Yeah, you get like an infinite enhanced step and infinite foundation build or something like super crazy. So
Sweet nasty.
Yeah,
Honestly,
it was pretty nuts.
We should let people do that. I think it'd be funny.
I mean,
Um,
it would be pretty cool to see.
Like we have true infinites in standard if you can jump through enough hoops, and like
right.
it's a true infinite that makes an infinite attack that still loses to cape and overturn and whatever, right? Like so, and I think let people be funny
It's something you can bring up with Sean for
anyway.
Rochester Retro.
someday.
So if you were gonna hand this deck to someone who's never played retro before, give me like maybe not one sentence, but like less than a minute. Like what's the pitch? Like you're physically handing someone this deck. You can maybe point out like a couple of cards, but they're about to go play their first retro event. What do you say to them when you hand them the deck?
So pretty much all of your attacks get this stun 2s, +1/+2 damage. Your whole attack lineup is you want to stun your opponent, you want to turn off all their abilities and tax their hand, and that's really going to open up for cards like Possessed by a Demon to give even more damage. You can use Resurrected Revenant defensively to pick up any foundations you need to block, since you don't need your character on defense. And this cute little attack, Bug Spray, is a reversal, which means if you block an attack, you can play this attack from your hand on your rival's turn, stun them out, discard more cards from their hand, and deal even more damage. And it also has Safe, which is a retro keyword that says if you play it on your turn and your rival blocks it, they're not allowed to reversal you back.
I saw that the name was like Bake Off Round 1. If you were going to name the deck, what would you name it?
Sub-Zero Retrofit.
Fair enough. And the only thing is, this like if like someone's saying for the elevator pitch, what's the kill condition? What's the cool card or cool interaction that is going to sell a player on this deck?
Probably that your 2 biggest attacks are going to be the Hooligan's Mockery, gaining stats obviously by your rival's sealed cards, but also Frosthammer, which gains speed for each of your rival's sealed cards and damage for each of their committed foundations. So if anyone from My Hero set 1 played like indiscriminate 1.3 million volts, this is kind of that before that, and it also gets speed, and it's a high instead of a low, so that's really crazy. And then you can set it up with cards like Deep Freeze for the stun 2 and 3 sealing by spending 1 momentum. Or you could also just do try Gravity Beam things and just loop your rival's hand out for, just make sure they have no cards in their hand and just beat them down that way.
No, makes a lot of sense to myself. Then we'll move on to Mr. Kevin Broberg and see how their deck came along.
Yeah, so this is UKVersus first retro Earth Mimic. This is a deck I made for kind of the immediate thought I had was if I come to someone and say, hey, here's a deck to play your first retro event with, or play your first games of retro with. I want to give you a taste of retro, and I want to give you kind of at once some of the support of like some familiar like path to victory that you might be able to understand and might make sense, with some standard things, but then kind of hook in like here are the mechanics of retro. Here's a spread of the format, and to really kind of get them to engage with some of the cards that are available and engage with the cards in their opponent's deck, as well as the cards in their own, and kind of have the familiar and then the unfamiliar in sort of balance. And my first thought was to play Mina Shido and let Mina Shido cheat in funny retro cards. As you check card, you get to be able to watch all of them. But I realized there weren't that many funny targets to be able to flip with Mina. There's kind of standard cards that are not really that remarkable compared to just what you do in standard. And then also I saw Mimic and kind of clicked back into memory this kind of interaction with him and From Signs of Love, where you get a lot of assets. The assets pay you off momentum, and then also your opponent's face downs pay you off with multiple. And just like this gives you this, and then I Speeding Necro Driver is the first attack here because this is the first thing that was kind of like wait. Speeding Necro Driver is super good. That's my hypothetical new player. There's now a throw that wears lots of stats and then creates lots of damage. Which is actually probably one of the first things. Like just Mimic lets you get tons and tons of damage, and so you're gonna sit on this Mimic deck, and maybe you're not gonna win other games, but it'll kind of be a familiar game plan to standard of let me see how big my numbers can get, and maybe you're gonna defend me, maybe you're gonna surprise me with the ways you can defend. But Mimic can keep coughing up these numbers, and especially once you know how the multiple keyword works, you know how reversal works, you can kind of see the shape of things unfolding. And so it's simultaneously the familiar of big damage and tutors, but then the unfamiliar of here are some super, super powerful attacks from back in the day. Is that kind of all making sense? Do you want to ramble on and just blitz nonstop here?
Yeah, makes a lot of sense.
I'll take that as yes. Yeah, cool. So yeah, going through the attacks, with Necro Driver is both a multiple attacks. We can stack up damage on 2 attacks. You can be able, and also one thing I wanted to keep in mind for this deck was to not have it be like a lot of competitive retro decks will, and a lot of standard decks, a lot of decks in general in Universus these days. We have so many good cards, and in retro there are so many good cards. I wanted to have a deck that wasn't 600 one-ofs, right? I wanted to be able to here are the pillars of the deck. Here are the 4X's. Here are the cards you have to know. You're going to be a tutor character who's going to be touching his discard pile with Mimic and Key to Humanity's Freedom that searches for an asset from the graveyard. But you'll get familiar assets like Massive Mutant Machine from your discard pile. You get familiar assets like Military Airship and Soup and Trigger from your discard pile. And then also you'll get into some relatively simple retro pieces like Omega Sword and Cormorant that are now this new context to Mimic, but we'll kind of be able to we'll click and kind of make sense and be clear and powerful. And we have Dangerous Gambit in here as just a funny interaction with Mimic in general, and get to build or untap my Massive Mutant Machine. Good bread and butter plays, but then into the multiple keyword, and you have to learn what multiple does, and you have to learn. I like the idea of having some interaction in the deck, of having destroy one rival asset, of having cards like Judgment Day that let you flip one rival foundation. So you can get to the new player is going to sit down and say, okay, well, what's my opponent's most important card? Maybe they can have a dialogue with their opponent if it's not a competitive game, so it's just kind of a casual pickup game, and say, hey, what should I target with Judgment Day? What's your game plan look like? What do I need to try to remove from it? And then be able to kind of click into the format and understand what they're playing against was part of the idea with this. We have Scracken in here too as another target flip, and also a powerful 3 keyword to be able to unload massive damage. You can get the number up really high when you're removing assets from your stage as those spending momentum with this 27 asset deck. And also kind of in a shameless nepotism angle, I did add a whole bunch of UK champ assets, especially when I realized that Drag to Victory is hysterical with Mimic, because yet another flip. I didn't even click in my head when I clicked on this. This is an E4 plus. This is chances to trigger Mimic. That's another retro mechanic, is the check forwards in the old style. But also, you get this momentum from all your momentum sources, your throws, your from science, whatever. Then you top deck the asset, and it's guaranteed to have a 6 check on top of your deck and a target flip of removing one of your opponent's cards. And that target flip, feeds into the multiple axes from Science with Love. We got some death charges in here. We got the UK's minus, and we have the Drag to Victory Judgment Day 1-2 punch combo. Finally, kind of the other thing I want to point out is we're playing some some wide attack strings with multiple, and I tried to have some good plus speed action with second Sandy Beast and Accident Machine. Kind of covering the fundamentals. And with Bombus Prophecy here also as yet another source of momentum. Just flip my own asset, and then some counterplay into you play. There's a lot of wide open things in the retro format, but if you're frustrated by your opponent's throws, your opponent's multiples, your opponent's reversals, solve those problems for you. And this can kind of again get the new player thinking and saying, well, I have these tools that you can counterplay to my opponent. Let me think about how I can try to use this tool. That's my pitch.
Yeah. Any questions for yourself, Sam?
Yeah, I dig a lot of the ideas here. I was a little worried at first because Mimic, when I think new player, I think Mimic plays a different type of Universus, but this is not a new Universus player, right? This is just someone who hasn't played retro yet. And I think most Universus players are pretty familiar with Mimic. He was a pretty popular pick for newer players anyways, just because of that extra added consistency that he gave and all that big piles of damage that he gives. So I like a lot of the movement here. It's a little PTSD for me personally with the key to humanity's freedom with the massive mutant machine, just another way to build this card. But we're building off of a current standard player, and that is how current standard players are winning games. So a lot of it makes sense here. Love the spinning Necro Driver inclusion. It's crazy how much this deck hates on rival assets. And I think that's kind of funny. The targeted foundation flips are really cool. I talked a little bit before with Brett about how I think that it can be a mistake in retro to try and get caught up in response wars and in answers for answers in a metagame that is not fully fleshed out. But pretty much every deck is going to be playing assets and foundations, and having answers for those definitely makes sense. I'm digging it. The UK pandering with the assets like UK's Finest and Death Charge is totally fine for the Bake Off here. Really it's the UK's fault for loving the Earth symbol so much.
100%. I guess I'll just ask you to kind of do what Sam asked of Cameron. Give us the elevator pitch. Sell this to a player looking at retro in a couple of lines.
Like you're about to hand it to someone to go play in an event, and they haven't had a chance to get this full debrief, right? Like someone walks up and says, "Hey man, I'd play in the retro, but I don't have a deck." You're just gonna hand them this deck. What do you say to them?
Yeah, so I think I'd tell them, hey, since in Earth Mimic deck, you're going to flip your opponent's stuff, and your win condition is from Science with Love. You can play some footsies, you can get some big damage, you can have some answers to stuff, but really you're trying to set up get a pile of momentum, turn them into multiples, drop a bunch of anvils on your opponent's head.
Fair enough, yeah. Just
pretty good.
Hit them hard and hit them to the dead.
Can I see the deck's ratios really quick?
Yeah, they're awful.
Hold down.
Ooh, wow.
That is what I was afraid of. I was keeping track of those block zones, but luckily you got a little bit of DR on face. People aren't blocking in any of the formats right now, right?
Yeah, and it's a little bit deceptive because 7 low blocks looks bad, but it is 7 low blocks, including 4x from Science of Love, and 4x. There's 4x Elf Shield that's a effective low block. Also source of low block.
Importantly, you've got 9 assets that block from stage, so that does help.
Yeah, I was even counting Judgment Day in my head, but it was even Break for 1 for the stage.
Yeah, I guess that one's a little bit more of a Terry Bogard maneuver because you get to build it down immediately. But that was a big part of Terry with From Science was flipping things with Judgment Day, and then you build it back down to be used again.
Yeah, that's in my Memo deck. I have a Life Memo deck that's 1-2. That's it's like Judgment Day and Friends. That
makes no sense.
Can I ask, how many cards were cut from this list? Did you have like an abundance, like way over 60, and you had to trim it down, or did this just come to you as like relatively the first 60 cards?
This is relatively the first 60 cards. I think I didn't go super deep. Kind of in the I was grateful to the theme of, hey, it's your first retro deck, of like, okay, I'm not going to build a deck that's 51 ofs. Like, that's the opposite of what a new player needs. If someone who's going to play this deck without mastering it, like, they should have fewer cards to read. So let's pick some good ones that kind of, I immediately thought of Keeping His Freedom, Youth Machine. I mean, that's the first card on the list for a reason. And kind of fleshed it out. There were a couple other like check cost foundations that just didn't feel like they were pulling their weight necessarily. And I'm guilty that sense of morals has a power level rather that's important to. Hopefully, like, no one sits down at the table with another relatively beginner and like tries to play it and gets to 4+ on all their attacks and just bully the Sub-Zero player. That'd be sad. But yeah, like I think much of this, it's probably like 20 or 30 cards maybe got caught. And there was definitely a big sideboard of like I looked at equipment heist briefly of like, hey, that's just pour all the standard garbage into retro. But a lot of these were pretty much first on best thought.
It does seem like we're leaning very heavily on Mimic's ability to tutor attacks. And I guess Scrap Cannon and Key to Humanity's Freedom ability to tutor cards as well, because there's not a lot of card advantage in this deck, looking over it, right? There's, I think, Deflection Swing. Does that add a card to hand and then you build one?
Yeah, this is a little bit of an awkward fit here. Yeah, because we don't actually make very many face sounds. Maybe a second draft might want to try to improve that. Yeah, because this builds one, then bounces the face down. So if you have no face downs, it just draws a card effectively.
Right. Yeah, which is very funny.
Yeah, and kind of the important theme of like, hey, let's read my opponent's card. Let's get more of a taste of retro. Is the joke was like we're gonna Deflection Swing. We're gonna get to use my opponent's card, get a taste of my opponent's cards, just from being in the card pool, and get a taste of the reversal keyword from in the card pool. Maybe a little bit.
But when Sweeping Daggers does it, the sky is falling and everyone hates it.
Yeah, I think Sweeping Daggers would be an awful pick for this kind of deck, for this kind of team challenge, and also is an awful card. I could just send it from retro. Anyway, because I wouldn't want to make them read all of my opponent's cards in the discard pile, but reading the attack they're currently resolving, it's like, everyone wants to always get greedy and just like play their Deflection Swing, right? Like everyone wants to hit the button. And it's exciting and fun, and maybe you lose because you overextended because of doing it, but it is fun and it is cool, and it doesn't get you reading your opponent's cards, which is kind of what I don't think, like, almost the thrust of this deck is like, okay, we're gonna have the familiar and then the unfamiliar, and we're gonna get you reading your opponent's cards, get you thinking about your opponent's cards and game plan, and playing the game.
Yeah, I think I don't have any more questions.
I think my last question would be, although you've given it a lovely name there, if it was going to be on a website such as UVS Ultra or Universus Cards, and a player was looking for a retro deck, what name would you want to give it to kind of like grab their attention?
If I were to give it like the kind of the elevator pitch, like if I ever put this deck on a billboard, right, like sell a course about this deck or something, it's like, I think it's just like beginner Earth Mimic, really. It's like it's really the thrust of the deck. It's for beginners. It's Earth Mimic, and I guess like Farm Retro with love. There we go.
All right, Connor, show us your amazing Godzilla build.
I might not have been Godzilla. I might have panicked.
Fine, show us your amazing Earth build.
Yes, that's better. Right, okay. So, started making a deck. Was either going to be Zilla or Goro, because they're very easy to teach people.
As is tradition.
And then I panicked about Symbol, because you told me I had 15 minutes left, and I had 322 cards in deck. So we rapidly made some decisions, and we have went with Goro, who is by far the best character ever. So, you get 4 cards in hand to start with, right? So the bonus here is, you don't have to read much. Mental load, non-existent. 4 cards, easy problem. He's got 40 health. You can take a battering. Easy. So, I'll jump straight through the actions quickly, because they're quite obvious ones. The Dark Tournament one's an easy one. Get a card from Momentum, back to hand, so you're getting a draw, plus a draw 1, so you're replacing it. Awesome card. Referee Jury, you're going to be able to set some damage of some of these big attacks. That Mimic's not as scary now, because I can set the damage, get a draw if it even does deal damage. More draw, we love it. Also, we have the ability to tap them out a little bit. Is that necessary? Probably not, but I like the draw on it. The assets are pretty easy as well. Again, we're not throwing crazy amounts. If I was playing my own Goro, I'd probably have a fair few more in, but I think Goro makes Massive Mutant Machine really easy to play in because it's literally check a 5, commit 1 face down, let's go, no problem. Or you can just play it in as a deflect. You've got Military Airship to pip up an attack, and you've got a Mega Shard to block from stage. So the awesome thing with Goro is he's going to be able to teach somebody how first forms work and stuff like that as well, which again, if this is somebody's first time, at least you've got some entry to it as well. So you're going to be able to flip a foundation, shuffle your hand back into the deck, and then selectively pick 4 cards, which means you get to read all your nice cards in the discard pile, figure out what's best for your turn, and go from there. I mean, there's no randomization anymore. We've just fixed all the problems of drawing random cards. Like, it's awesome. We're sorted. You've got an easy enhance, which allows you to discard top 4 cards of the deck for 4 flat damage. Let's go. You're putting more cards in. You're getting an easy pick next turn. You just continue. So the attacks in question are all pretty straightforward. They're all going to do one universal thing, which says draw a card. Because we're only a 4-hander, we do kind of want more cards in hand and to be able to continue attack strings and stuff. So also, the bonus with a lot of these is you're just giving flat 4 damage to them all, so they all become scary in their own right. Brutality is a cheat card. I'll just say this one now. I love it the best. Like, we just have to get somebody down to 3 health, and then it's basically a win. So we're already cheating with our opponent's life total. So great, because if it's ever in the discard pile, we can just pick it up. So this card's always a scary threat. Also, we can just play it as a breaker 3 block. It's going to the discard pile. We can always try and pick it back up. So Electric Moth, easy one. Discard, draw 2. If they've built to 10, draw 3. Like, no downside. Again, it's like a 3 high 8 if we're playing Goro. You've got Rapid Punch, gets more speed for how many you play. I was initially going to put all 4 in, but from playing Goro in the past and stuff like that, I've always found that like you very rarely ever do the scenario where you pick up all 4. It just feels like overkill. You've probably killed them by the 3rd one. So I stuck with 3 just to cut some numbers. Again, also the panic came into play because I think when I started cutting the attacks, we were at 120 something, so there was choices to be made. Nutcracker, easy one, breaker 2. Again, any of these things you can use as blocks that then go to the discard pile. You've got the option to pick back up, so it's just free breaker. You get to add a card to the pile to draw. We're playing Goro, who has a way of cheating because all our face downs count as 2 foundations, so we have a way of like having easy progressive as we play. He also has this one that teaches an old retro rule, which I don't even know if this applies anymore. But if they specifically, I think they have to have it printed on the card, so it has to be like proper old retro. And if they're a man, they get battered for another 4 damage. I'm pretty sure that got errated. So like, if it's not got it printed, I think you just don't get it, if I remember rightfully.
Yeah, the old rule was if they didn't have a symbol, you got to choose the outcome that was favorable for you. Now, if they don't have a symbol, the rival chooses the outcome.
Yeah. So unless they pick the wrong thing,
Yeah,
we're not getting that damage. Mayfair's Assault, again, then teaches a little bit of like symbol reliant ones. So we're playing it obviously on Earth, but you can do this ability. So you add the top card of your discard pile to your hand. The cool thing with this is you can go Goro, and this teaches people when stacking, when discarding multiple cards, you can discard the 4. You get to actually put the what you want on top. Like, you discard them all at the same time, so you get to stack, and then you can do that enhance. So you're actually like discarding 4 from the top of the deck to pick the best one. Sometimes it's great, sometimes it's not. Also teaches another firstie, so you can actually commit all your points face downs. Retro was always pretty good for having like a lot of face down effects and stuff like that, like a lot of plays that make things flip. So it's also useful. Then I thought, right, let's add some like new cards as well. And I realised, what is the best way to teach somebody the game with having an attack turn, clearing your card pool, and then having a build turn from all those lovely cards you've drawn? I think that is possibly the greatest scenario ever. You're teaching both turns in one. Brilliant scenario. Let's go for it. Like, Channel Energy is just a solid card for that option. Then we'll go on to the other ones. We've got Earthbreaker, you get a bit of stun. We're going to have so many draw mechanics, we're getting extra damage for that, and teaching us response from card pool effects, along with also being able to maybe, if it deals damage, destroy the rival foundation committed from it is also good. Has Blitz, so that's doing the stuff, but I think most people have a couple of blitzes in there. We jump over to Smash and Stomp. We get to show people how to hack their own checks for massive advantage, along with dealing damage and then having responses and stuff like that to then draw cards. We jump to the other 6s now, which is easy ones. We've got Titan Cliff, which allows us just to discard 3 cards because, again, we can pick these up at a later date. So we're not really losing it, we're just filtering for an easy 3 draw. There is a handful of 6s, check value 6s in the deck, so you could also get the build, so that's also all right. But again, it's like a 5 high for like 10 damage in Goro, so we're loving it. We've got Dank Cheerios, as I call it, showing people how multiple 2 works. We also then have static text, which we get to show people as well. This one's also just disgusting. You only need one of it because when you see it, it's basically an end game scenario. You're going to have it in the card pool. Your opponent can't play abilities that could reduce the damage of your attacks or cause cards to leave the pool. This is going to essentially just lock out an attack turn where they have less interaction, especially with, like, I think there's a couple of old cancel like multiples and stuff like that and discard them. I know it's a Chun-Li card, but the name's escaped us. This just stops all of that. We get to teach you a little bit of deadlock by saying these become unblockable if somebody's a psycho and goes to 11 foundations, because we can just pick this up whenever we need it. And then I thought, let's chuck in a big 9 diff attack, because why not? This card is a 9 diff, but again, we're Goro, where our face downs count as 2. So the bonus here is, if we check a 5, we're only committing 2 foundations for this, which just feels incredibly fake, and somebody will probably call judge on you, but then you'll tell them you're right, and they'll have to deal with it. But it's a 10 mid for 12 in Goro, allows us to see our opponent's hand, steal an attack, and then play that attack as well. So it's just amazing. This allows us just to set up crazy plays. All of these kind of cards are like 1 and 2 ofs and stuff like that, mostly down to the fact that like selectively you can pick them up as long as you can flip a foundation for Goro's first form. So you don't need to overly abundantly see cards the way other decks would have to. So it looks a bit kind of weird toolbox, but when you start like discarding 4 at a time, every attack and stuff like that for your own turns, you start to realise that discard pile becomes quite thick with options. So you're only getting to pick 4, so it kind of limits it down a little bit where it's not as psychotic of a pick. The foundations are the super easy part, right? So we've got a card here called Hell's Reach, which is just disgusting. This lets us play something, commit face ups to then flip and ready it, and then get a foundation that's now a face down, counts as 2. We're really getting 3 foundations for the cost of 1 0 diff. Like, there's no downside to this. 1 Shinobi's Message, just why not have like a cheeky breaker floating about? If it's unique, typically I play just 1 copy of it, especially in Goro, because you can find them or you're going to draw into them and you don't really want to see multiples of them really as such. On the draw front, we have like 16 cards that say draw. So we have Ferocious Attacker. So when we deal damage, it's a when, not an if. We get to flip to draw. Now we've got 2 foundations for this 1 diff. We get Chivalrous, which allows us to flip and also be very nice to our opponent and give them a card as well while we continue to batter them. And then also we get 2 foundations out of that. This also allows us to have a wee bit of defense as well, if they try to selectively stun or selectively flip something or destroy it. So it's also pretty useful for that. Arranging the deal, if we go down to 19 health, we've got a Desperation E. Like, how crazy is that? We have a Desperation E. We get to teach people Desperation about going to half your health, and our half health is 19. Like, let's go. Easy mode. We're going to get to 20 at some point while we're battering them. Now you get a Desperation E, flip, draw 1. You get Big Appetite, which allows us to flip and discard 1. It does have a bit of a thing. This is my heroes thing, though, which was like, 5 was the lowest. And it goes, if your hand size is less than your rivals, you don't have to do the discard part. We're in the magic land of retro where 4 was actually a good number. So we're pretty much always going to just say flip, draw. Unless we're in like a mirror match or something like that, or playing against that new turtle. Onto the defense pieces is now everything else. We run 4 copies of Hellfire of Spare, This card allows us to respond when they play something and just say, cool, no more damage stats to this card. Most attacks aren't crazy statted, so like being able to just like completely stop somebody's turn by going, right, cool, that can't get stats. We can now deal with that. This also works perfectly with Spiritual Connection, one of the greatest DLC cards to ever come out. This just says now, after you're dealt damage for an attack, your opponent must play a non-attack as the next form, or just pass. Again, we're now just clogging their pool for the sake of a face down. We've got Training Method that allows us to build in the Ultra Regens, or the other 3 deaths a wee bit easier as such. Surveyor's just an easy one. Form Commit, we're teaching them now forms that they can do whenever, get momentum to hand, or commit it for an extra 3 damage on the lows. Refusing to Let Go allows us to reset the damage to printed and then hit it with -2 or +2 if they did something to us. And Ultra Regen's just the obvious one. We're going to take 5 damage at some point because we don't really care for blocking too much, and we're going to draw 2 cards and gain 2 health. And I think the only one I missed was Moment of Normalcy, which is just reset the speed of the damage as well. So that is it in a nutshell.
Very fair. Any questions for yourself, Sam?
Yeah. The one question we've been asking everybody: you're about to hand this deck to someone to play in their first retro event. You've got maybe a minute at most to explain it to them. They've never seen the deck, right? They've never gotten the dissertation. They don't have the full deck list. What do you tell them as you hand them the deck?
So as I hand them the deck, I'm going to show them Goro, and I'm going to say, read that first form. You now have way more choice than you initially did. That's it. That's all they need to know. Because the moment you read that first form, it explains the deck to the highest form. Like, okay, I get to put my cards back that I didn't like from flipping a card, and then I get to pick up the cards I do like. Problem solved.
Sure. Simple and clean. I like it.
Fair enough. Can you just scroll back down to your attacks?
Yes.
So if a player they played this event and wanted to make it themselves, how accessible are Brutality and Nutcracker to a player coming into Retro?
Honestly, they're actually a lot more accessible than people realise. Because Nutcracker, when it got errated, it actually basically killed the card. So people are way more willing to actually like trade into that card now, or trade away that card. Brutality as well. You're only needing 1 copy of it as the kind of bonus to this kind of deck. You're not needing full play sets. So like it's easy to kind of get 1 or 2 cards from people.
That's fair. My only other question would be about the fact that it's all 1 or 2. Obviously, I know with Goro, it's a lot more consistent than it looks on paper. But to a new player coming into Retro, that might also be intimidating.
Potentially. But you're only really throwing. I think there's like 31 cards in this that are like there's like 31 unique cards and such. So you're not really you're showing them like a fair amount of cards on that front as such. So it's not too bad. They see 1 card, they go, cool, what does this do? They'll obviously have scanned through it as well before they start. So they'll be like, all right, cool, I know that like I can't pick up 4 rapid punches. But they probably, once they see all the other cards, they'll be like, well, why would I pick up all 3? Unless they know the person's not got lows or something like that.
No, that makes no sense. Any questions for yourself, Sam?
Can I see how many 6 checks do we have that we can build with Titan Cliff? That is something
So, with Titan,
I'm interested in.
I believe we can build Omega with it, can't we? Yeah. We can build Omega with it, which is pretty much the main one. We can build all our Desperations. And we can build our Ultra Regens.
Okay.
So that's 8.
So we're literally looking at either an Omni block, Desperation draw, or draw 2, gain 2 scenarios.
How long do you expect games to last while playing this deck?
Probably not that long, to be honest. You're flat damaging a bunch of stuff. If you go a little bit aggressive, I mean, the moment you see Unexpected, you get to reveal their hand. Like, you can just overload them with like a zone. You just flat 4 damage into everything you're continuing to draw. The bonus as well is if you even play like Energy Channel, you can do your attack turn and then build in all of these lovely defensive cards after it because you've now cleared the whole pool. If that's not already killed them.
Okay. Do you have anything, Brad?
just the name of the deck.
Okay, so it's a throwback to the British Bake Off. Went to make a deck, had a panic attack. Bon appetit. It was James Acaster.
Right, well, we'll let these guys have a little chat while Sam retires to the judging table, and we'll go over your thoughts on the decks. Sam. Great builds, everyone. Really hyped to see it. You should all be very proud of what you've done here, and we'll be back in a second.
So I think there's 3 good decks with good ideas. I like that they all had, a concept behind it that was geared towards newer players, like UVS Hermits. Accessibility I think was really cool. Kevin Broberg utilizing combinations that we already see in standard, using a standard character to try and bridge that gap, and kind of show like this is the same idea but enhanced in retro. I think is very, very cool. And Goro, I think, is one of the best characters you can give to someone who's new to retro. Famously, I think Goro should actually be banned from the format, and I believe he is in Rochester Retro. As someone who played the deck that got Goro banned, I didn't make the deck, to be full disclosure. A guy played it in a retro series, and he accidentally broke a rule and just got judge damaged out of the tournament finals, which was crazy. And I was the only person who went, wow, that deck was totally going to win this tournament. And they didn't ban it because it didn't win the tournament, which is also crazy. And I just played it at the next retro tournament and won it, right? So then they banned it because it was actually, this is too much. So I think Goro in retro is one of the best characters you can hand somebody. Being able to kind of pick your turns and pick which cards you want to play with is incredibly strong. So they've definitely made good cases for themselves.
Yeah, 3 very strong decks. 3 decks all doing different things and kind of showing players different aspects of retro as well, and offering great bridges, as you said, from standard into retro from the way that they've been tackled. You said at the start you weren't going to need much time, but this is not the easiest of choices.
Yeah, I do have my selection already. I wanted to ask if you were judging, because it's just me, right? It's not like we have to agree on anything. It's just my choice.
It's all down to your choice at the end, yeah.
Okay. But if you had to eliminate one, do you know which one you would eliminate?
It's definitely a tough one. As much as he's going to hate me for it, because I specifically said if it was for new players, I think Cameron is the one I'd send home because it's a good starter deck and it's a good way to teach people the game, but it's not highlighting retro and it's not bridging standard and retro as much as what Goro and Mimic are doing. If that makes sense.
I would say I definitely think Cameron has the lowest powered deck, and that one's tough for me to overcome because I'm thinking I'm eliminating the deck that would be at first I thought I would eliminate the deck that would probably have the worst experience for someone new to retro. And I think playing Sub-Zero, he's just never been as good as he reads. He's just not as powerful as he reads. And playing him with his own cards, playing him with cards that were legal with him does not change that, right? I'm looking for the Tri-Gravity Beam is huge. Don't get me wrong. Adding that is huge. Adding newer things to the Sub-Zero deck to make it better than it was in the past, I think would be really cool. But it's a lot of the same cards that people played with him in the past, and I think that he was pretty underwhelming. But at the same time, stunning things, sealing things, not having to worry about your opponent's crazy retro foundations, I think that's a huge bonus. I think that's huge for the deck. being able to target seal rival foundations and stun them out so I don't have to read them, that's huge for a new player to retro. So that one kind of won me back in the end. It's definitely a mixed bag. I mean, like I said, Broberg's deck kind of threw me off at first because it's the least typical looking of a deck. It kind of asks players to make, I guess, informed choices probably more than others. And balancing like the mimic response when you need an extra attack versus when you need the damage is like pretty tough now. So, you know, mimic might be, he might be like the worst pick overall to hand to a new player, but I do think Broberg crafted probably the best deck overall, you know, like the highest power level deck, but I'm ready to make my decision.
So, hello, Bakers. We've had a discussion of the decks. Sam had some great points for each of your decks. So, I hope you guys had a great discussion here yourselves. I look forward to getting messages from you all when you go back and watch this about what was said about your decks and how wrong I am about what the aspects of retro. But I will now throw over to Sam with his decision as to who is going home.
Yeah, so you guys didn't make it easy for me. I want to first off, I want to say thank you guys all for coming out to bake. And I liked each of the decks. I truly, genuinely liked each of the decks. I think that they all brought something very specific for someone who's new to retro, which of course was the prompt. So first off, I think you guys all hit the prompt nail on the head. You know, Broberg's deck at first, when I saw it, I was a little skeptical because it's a deck that plays a different type of universes. The deck construction looks a little weird and awkward, but he did rope me back in with the you know, the more standard gameplay loop. Players who play standard are going to be really familiar with Massive Mutant Machine and the way Mimic works. And so I felt like that was a solid enough jumping off point that players would understand the deck. I think that Connor's deck, the Goro deck, I think that Goro is one of the best characters you can give to a new player to play in retro. The high health total, the ability to basically fix your hands, to never whiff a kill turn is something that really helps out new players a lot. You know, reducing that mental load with the 4 cards in hand definitely makes tons of sense. But at the same time, the deck is very all over the place. There's a lot of one-ofs. There's a couple different strategies sort of coming together. Hard casting Massive Mutant Machine is easy in Goro, but is also a slow strategy for a deck that we admitted probably isn't going too deep into the game, right? It's a very quick, very fast-paced deck. So that one gave me a little cause for concern. And then Cameron's deck, UVS Hermit's deck, I love the accessibility option. I thought the accessibility was really cool. But I did think that the overall power level was pretty rough. Sub-Zero is a character who doesn't really play as good as he reads most of the time. He reads like a character even back in 2018, 2017. He reads as someone who should be kind of crazy, kind of insane. We even saw Potemkin's reveal having a very similar condition on if an attack is blocked, your rival has to discard a card. So Sub-Zero being kind of low powered, even with his own cards, not seeing a ton of blend between standard and retro, not seeing things that I think would change his overall power level, you know, would buff up the deck. Kind of the way that like was it the Key to Save Humanity did for the Mimic deck to build in that Mutant Machine, right? Like that just really changed the power level of how that deck operates. And I didn't really see that with the Sub-Zero list too much. It was a lot of Sub-Zero cards, which again is great for accessibility, but not something that was very playable in the past. We even saw, the Sub-Zero Unflip Foundation without any of that the synergy. Like Honky Tonk Woman doesn't combo with it with the errata, but there is still some really cool synergies you could pull off with it. So that one definitely gave me pause for concern while deliberating. But I do think the strategy of sealing rival foundations and stunning them out is great for a new player in retro because they don't have to read all their opponents' nasty cards. You gotta find which one to seal before you stun them out, right? Seal the stun hate and then stun them out. But that being said, the deck that I have to send home with great regret in my heart is actually going to have to be the Goro deck. It just had a little too much in every direction. I can see a new player getting overwhelmed with the choices in the discard pile. We have 9 difficulty attacks. We've got 4 difficulty attacks that draw a ton of cards, and I just didn't see anything super cohesive with the deck beyond Goro, put a bunch of damage on things and hope for the best. Again, I think Goro is an absolutely great character to give a new player, and I think a seasoned player can play that list perfectly. But I wanted to see a cohesive theme that makes what Goro does really good. Like I wanted to see 4 of Mayfa's Assault, basically, right? Like something that really capitalizes on what Goro's doing. And I think that's what the other 2 decks really gave me that the Goro deck didn't.
Yeah, so unfortunately, Connor, this is the end of your run. Not by any means a bad deck, but just not what Sam was looking for in terms of the prompt. How are you feeling?
Absolutely devastated.
Again, I think all the decks are good. I think a seasoned player would pick up that Goro deck just fine.
Yeah, I think when I was cutting from 320 plus cards, I was probably like, this might not be doable in 5 minutes.
Half an hour sounds like a lot of time until you get that 15-minute notice.
Yeah, the other 2 decks just had a lot of 4-ofs. It was I told Brett before we started, I was going to be looking for a deck that the win condition is sort of obvious to me, right? I want to be able to look at a deck, and as a seasoned retro player, I should be able to identify how this deck wins the game pretty quickly, and for the Sub-Zero deck, it's Tri-Gravity into it's not called Burning Hammer. What's the hammer attack?
Frost Hammer.
Frost Hammer, like Tri-Gravity into Frost Hammer just seems like such an easy slam dunk sort of combo, anything when you stun your rival out and then dump all the damage on it. And then the Mimic deck had a very obvious Broberg even said it, you the pitch was you get your key to save humanity out, then you from science with love, utilizing the multiple keyword and things like that. So both the Mimic deck and the Sub-Zero deck also just had a few more answers to rival foundations, rival assets. And those are something that I think in retro it's really nice just to be able to shut off rival cards, not have to worry about how they actually interact. If I don't know what a card does and I can just seal it, that's pretty cool. And I think that's the Goro list again is probably not supposed to be trying to do that necessarily. The Goro list is just trying to absolutely kill you, but there was just a lot of different directions that the Goro list was pulling me in.
No, that makes a lot of sense. So unfortunately, Connor, this is the end of your run. It's been absolutely a pleasure having you here. Thanks for filling in at the last second as well after Marvin unfortunately was unable to take part. And yeah, I'm sure you can showcase how powerful Goro is in Glasgow in a couple of months.
That's fair. No worries, though. Thank you very much for having us, though.
No worries. Enjoy the rest of the evening.
Catch you later on, lads.
All right.
Have a good one.
So with that, we move on to round 2. Round 1 was my pick, and I just wanted to kind of set the tone, set the theme. But now we have the secret ingredient, the special spice that Sam wants you to build around. And as it's their moment, I will let you introduce the card and what kind of deck you're looking for.
Yes, bakers, I have a very special, very exotic ingredient for you today. A very spicy, very, very exotic ingredient that I don't think will be easy to build around. I don't think it will be particularly easy to show off the specialities of this ingredient. So I'm really excited to see what you guys come up with, because it is a favorite pet card of mine. It's a card that I pulled out of a random long box that Shane Duckworth had at a locals one day, and I became randomly obsessed with it. And I don't know if I ever actually put it in a deck, or if I did play it, everyone just sort of laughed at me. But I'm a lover of blue cards. I love me some action cards. And so the ingredient that I have for you today is the action card Drinking. This is from KOF 03. It's a ruler of time action. It's a 3 difficulty 4 control check with a +2 mid block. It's got the air, order, and water symbols, and it has 2 really kind of strange abilities. The first one is response before the block step of your attack. Add it to your hand. That attack is considered aborted and does not resolve. It actually just says it right on the text. It's considered aborted. And then it has enhance, reveal your opponent's hand and change the zone of this attack to any other zone. So good bake-off decks, I want to see be able to utilize both elements of this card. Hopefully you can use every part of the ingredient. Hopefully it will be very obvious to me when I first look at the list what exactly Drinking is doing in this list. And I want it to be a core part of the strategy overall. I don't want it to just be, a one-time use to snipe something, to snipe the opponent with just maybe a wrong block zone or something. I want to see real synergies with the card Drinking.
Yeah, so there you have it. I'm sure everyone was expecting Templar when we got the whole build-up and the blue cards, but no.
So I will say I really did think about doing Templar at first because you mentioned it, but I do think defensive build rounds are a lot harder to showcase. When it comes to even like pet designing, like fan designing cards, designing defensive cards is really tough because coming up with theoretical situations where a defensive card matters is very difficult, and everyone would laugh at me if I told you that there's offensive text on Templar. So I decided to go with Drinking instead.
It's
I have no idea
definitely interesting, and I have a few thoughts, but I don't know. I need to do some digging. I need to do some research.
Yeah, I did not pick an easy one.
I'm excited to try to get drunk on this one.
Cheers.
Well, we'll let you head to your tables and drink it all in. You'll have 30 minutes, and best of luck. So let's get into the prompt for the finals, though. So, what drew you to Drinking, and what kind of decks are you expecting?
If I'm being 100% honest with you, I have no clue what to expect, and I have no idea how to use this card. This card, for all intents and purposes, was dog shit and was completely unplayable. I don't know. Funny enough, I think Kevin Broberg might have been the only person I've ever seen actually play this card at one point. And maybe I'm just misremembering and I played it against him or something. But I picked this card mostly because I wanted other people to do the work for me. This is a card I would like to play in retro. And so I want to see, in 30 minutes, what can other people come up with so I can play this card at a future event.
I'm just trying to think of things that have very cool on-play abilities that you'd want to kind of repeat without having to actually do the damage first.
Yeah, so that's kind of, like we talked about, it's hard to it's hard to come up with theoretical defensive situations. So drinking in the past, right, would be something that's really good if your opponent puts the damage down to 0, right? They use their big, zero out the attack, and then you just drinking it back to hand, and then you can play it again.
Yeah.
So that's like the really common way to use the response. But from a deck building perspective, we want to see like intentional synergies, right? We want to see something that benefits from being aborted, which is so rare in this game. There's so many cool combos that you come up with where you abort the current attack, but then when you actually play that combo, missing out on the damage from a single attack is super crippling. You're capable of no returning yourself, right? And like, how many times do you kill through that? And so there's been a lot of times where like I've wanted to play Bakugo with like Throat Slitter, and you're like, okay, make you discard a card, and then if I abort the Throat Slitter, you discard a second card, and then you never get to draw because it never deals damage. But I'm losing out on like 8 to 10 damage from the Throat Slitter, right? So it's really tough to find genuine good synergies for things that abort attacks. So I'm really excited to see something like that. We could end up seeing like an infinite where you add the drinking back to hand, and then the drinking adds the attack to hand, and then the attack that you play adds a drinking to hand. That would be something that I would see people gravitate towards to go for. What I really expect, and I don't, hopefully they're not listening. I assume they're not. I assume they're being good boys and girls. The first place my mind went, the very first place my mind went is a card called Magnet Slam. Have you ever seen Magnet Slam?
I have not, no.
So Magnet Slam is a order attack. It's Chaos All Order. And the relevant text on it is it's a 3 for 4, stun 1. But the relevant text is your opponent cannot attempt to partially block this attack. And so this is one of the only times where I actually thought that drinking might be good, but it was also kind of rotating soon, and the order symbol was kind of bad back then. But a lot of chaos decks and decks that pump damage would win games from spamming lows at you and then playing a Magnet Slam once you run out of low blocks. Just Magnet Slam zone checking you and becoming randomly unblockable is something that has historically been incredibly powerful in universes. Vicious Madness is a 4 mid for 8 throw that you can make it so it can't be partially blocked. And it's very weird how often that text is super relevant. You wouldn't think it'd be that relevant for a throw, and you wouldn't think it'd be that relevant for a mid attack. And yet every now and then you just get to zone check your opponent. So if you combine Magnet Slam with a card that looks at their hand, and then you get to change the zone to an unblockable zone, that's kind of where I expect Kevin to go, because I know he's familiar with Magnet Slam. I don't know Cameron UVS Hermit's familiarity with cards like that. But that's kind of the most obvious synergy I can think of.
So I don't know much about like the retro cards. I like MHA 1 is where my database starts, and I'm still building my retro database. But my head went straight to the Heroes of Exandria card Throat Slitter. That makes your opponent discard a card, but if it deals damage, they draw a card. But if you pick it up,
right.
So you just go, yeah, you just discard a card, and I'll play it again, and you just discard a card, and be like, yeah, cool, 2 for 1.
Right, and you know who can play that? Because it's Void Attuned, right?
It's Void Attuned, yeah.
Yeah, so the other guy with the MHA attack that cannot be completely blocked is Huntacero, right?
Okay.
Yeah, so we could see a Cero deck where you change the zone to the, like if they have, only a mid in their hand and you change it to a mid, all of a sudden it's unblockable, right?
Yeah.
So Sarah, I would not be surprised to see Sarah be what one of the players chooses, right? What one of our bakers chooses.
Sarah's
One of
a
the
solid
things
choice.
about go ahead.
I was saying Sarah is definitely a solid choice.
Yeah, one of the things about drinking in Sero as well is the enhance on drinking is change the zone of this attack. So you can use drinking defensively. And so you can use drinking to force the Sero once per game. And then you get to completely block and discard a card from their hand that way.
Yeah, because using it offensive, using it defensively kind of sets up your next turn, which is really powerful, and can keep you alive if they're trying to build up to some kind of big crescendo.
Yeah. If you're trying to get really cute with it, and probably sacrifice quite a bit of power level, there's Water Crashman. Crashman has an enhance that says if your attack is partially blocked, it gets +4 damage, which is essentially 2 more damage, after calculations. But he also gives certain block zones +2 to their block modifier. So he picks a zone at the start of the turn and he says, okay, all your mid blocks have +2 to their modifier. So he's pretty good at forcing a zone. Bomb Man has if your attack is partially blocked, your rival sacrifices a foundation, which sounds better than it is. But he also gives unblocked attacks +3 damage, and he can stack that by discarding more cards from his hand. So Bomb Man decks used to just start the turn by drawing like up to 8 cards, up to 9 cards, and then they would just discard like 4 to 6 cards and then play 2 or 3 attacks. And if you just didn't block one of them, you took like triple damage, basically like +9 damage. And if you couldn't completely block it, you would be forced to partial block it to save yourself like 10 damage and then also destroy a foundation. So Bomb Man can get pretty gimmicky, but he also has to discard cards from a hand to get that damage pump. So I don't know if he can afford drinking as well in that hand. There's also Master Magnet. Oh, go ahead.
I was going to say, given that we've got 12 and a half minutes left, we should probably jump in and see how they're getting on as well.
Yeah, let's do it.
Yeah, welcome. So, non-determinism, I realized as I was clicking around stuff, I realized, like, what can I do with drinking? I'm trying to, I spent a little bit of time trying to cook up, like, okay, how can I get maximally paid for this abort my attack? Like, I could bounce a Spirit Sword Thrust or an Air Ground Smash. I could build a Kuwabara deck, was kind of pretty quickly the lane that I was channeling into, and I don't like that. That's not my scene. I'm not a Kuwabara guy. That can be someone else. And I was trying to cook, like, can I make a infinite combo where I'm going to do like the brisket thing of I'm going to play my drinking and then pick up my drinking and then play my drinking and then pick up my drinking and like play my attack and then it's going to pick up my drinking and then I'm going to drinking the attack when it starts to resolve and then I'm going to play my attack again and pick up the drinking and then play my drinking again and then put my opponent's secondary card pool gratefully or whatever. And I didn't quite see where I was going, but it kind of got me in the lane of let me try to get paid for moving things in and out of my card pool. And I realized if I were to do that play, the card Ace Maneuver would then have infinite damage if I jerked off with drinking enough like that. And I realized I can just clear the drink from my card pool. And I thought of my 2-dot from Neomax, who says, among many other words, discard all non-attack cards from your card pool. That could get the drinkings out of the way. And I realized, we have, hey, I have a champ card that does that too. And so this is what I'm doing. I'm locked in. The names are too funny. I can't not do this.
That's true. There is like a retro My 2, the one that you were pointing at?
Yes. Yeah.
There is like a retro deck where I think you just play like 1 million actions, and then eventually after clearing like 1 million actions, you just end up playing Ackerman's Team Up for life totals.
Yeah, I know I know Wub has found this too, and I remember I worked on this like before, like MH, like circa MHA like 1 and 2,
And it's gotten, I think, a lot better now, but where you play Guilty Throne and not over yet, and you play every Guilty Throne you can find, and they're all on like 4 difficulty.
I'm a fan of that one too. Yeah.
But drinking locks, you very much can't drinking and watch the throne. So
Okay.
yeah, I'm very much it's a matter of technique now. So we got to figure out what my foundations are, what my attacks are. Look, we know where Ace moving. I don't know if I'm Ackerman teaming up on top of the Ace maneuvers. I think I might not. But I really, I think this deck needs a attack I actually want to bounce, and that's what I'm going to be looking for next.
Okay. I think there's less than 10 minutes left.
Yeah.
But I think we should check in with Cameron.
How goes?
Well, how goes it for you? That's the big question.
We're here to find out.
Panicked a little bit.
Ooh.
I'm not surprised. This is not an easy one.
No. Although, once I started thinking about it a little bit, it did help me out a little.
How far
should
along?
I be telling you guys what I'm doing?
Yeah, how far along is your deck?
Technically there, I just need to add a few more things and then thin it down.
Ooh.
Okay.
So what's the kind of plan you've gone for?
So there was initially a plan I had that turns out drinking doesn't share a symbol with, because I'm pretty sure there are some attacks that are combo attacks that combo with action cards. And I thought picking one of those up and then playing it to combo with drinking would be really cool. Turns out there's only one of those on drinking symbols, and it kind of sucks. So I was not able to do that. However, I do like changing zones of my attacks, and this fit really well with a character I've built in Retro before, Elecman.
Ooh.
Okay.
So he's all about changing attack zones, and I don't want to give the spice away too soon. But there is some definite spice for. I think this is one of the first when I started doing like full retro. I don't remember if I built this deck when it was standard legal, but I think this was one of my first like retro. Let's see how crazy we can get with some of this stuff. So I'm really excited to show you guys that.
Oh, well,
I'm excited to see it.
Yeah, I guess we'll just leave you to it.
Thank you.
Whenever you add something back to your hand from the card pool, that's just like the first place most seasoned UVS players go is how can I keep doing that? Because then you get infinite enhanced steps. And there's a surprising amount of those throughout the history of the game. But usually they are easy to disrupt. You know, a single card pool clog can oftentimes, mess up the combo,
Yeah.
It is funny that he was looking for combo action. Cards that combo off actions are like notoriously not good. All the ones I can think of are not good. I'm trying to think of the one that would be on a drinking symbol. I'm assuming it's a water card off the top of my head, but I can't remember. What you would probably look for though is probably a card that combos off mid blocks. I wonder if he looked at combo mid block because that's a ride-in special, I believe.
Reverse spider uppercut.
Okay. Yeah, it's a 3-low 3 reversal. It kind of wants you to block with the action, right? It doesn't necessarily want you to drinking in front of it. One of the things that the players could try to build around is ways to just clear the drinking from the card pool. If you just have like a really consistent way to ditch a drinking from the card pool, it could just become like a value piece. But I don't know if that's truly in the spirit of the competition. If the only thing you're doing is just saying drinking doesn't get in the way of our progressive. So
yeah, I think it's more you want drinking. Like I said, you want to be able to utilize both aspects of drinking, and drinking kind needs to be one of the focuses of them, rather than just going, cool, you change the zone, now get up my card pool kind of thing.
Yeah, I'm very curious to see if Broberg actually achieves something infinite enough. I'll say pseudo infinite, and I'm, if we're just gonna see an Elecman deck, that's always hype. We're always here for Elecman. Electman, however, unlike was it Ling Xiaoyu? Ling counts block zones. Electman only counts attack zones. We might end up with a few too many cards in our card pool, you know what I mean? Like we might not be getting rid of stuff as much as we can. Because if you have 4 cards in your card pool and you discard 2 cards from your card pool, that's not as impressive. But there are ways in Retro to ready Electman, quite a few actually nowadays. And I like to brew around those, so I'll be interested to see what they do.
Hello, bakers. That is time. Welcome back, Sam. Both bakers seem confident in their builds. Who would you like to start off with this time?
I think Cameron went first last time, so we should start with Robert.
Makes sense.
Wait, I need to add any other card in my deck so that it's actually 60 cards.
Oh, I don't know. I don't know. Is that a pencils down, Brett? You're the arbiter.
Well, I will just show you what I've got, and we will talk about it, and we can go from there.
That makes sense.
Yeah, because I'm just saying to respect the time limit. You know, from all the baking shows I've seen, people have served up some raw food, and that's what they get judged on. So,
I mean,
if you like the raw food, I can show you the raw food as well.
In season 1, Richard won an episode, and his first deck was technically illegal because he had an off-symbol card. So the rules are fast and loose here.
okay, so there's a precedent for illegal decks winning. Cool.
There's precedent for bending time rules and bending like it's all good fun.
Okay.
All right. So the title of this deck is "Bring Your Friends to Drinking with Ace Maneuvers," and this is I stumbled upon this. And I knew that this had to be the deck because this is a great sentence that is not at all just like rubbing up to the judges with one of my champ cards. But it was revealed to me that drinking is an action that stays in your card pool, and bring your friends eats actions out of your card pool. So, perfect, great. This is exactly what we're here for. This is, I guess, actually, even on the margins, this is now enhanced. I can peek your hand and then change my potentially very large powerful attack to off zone. But really, this is kind of the theme of this deck is that we're going to be clearing our card pool an awful lot, hopefully, ideally, and using that storm count to fuel the biggest Ace Maneuvers hurricane that has been ever known to man. We're going to get category 5 rubbers per minute in this deck, because we're playing all these action cards like Support Your Friends that draws 2, Let's Cut Loose that draws a card and maybe builds a foundation, Aligns with His Root, clears itself and makes the next tech easier, and obviously Drinking and Bring Your Friends. Bring Your Friends can play the form ability and get another copy of Bring Your Friends to add more objects to the card pool to then be able to clear them out, possibly. I do foundation that has been ready this turn, so we can ready our Thunder Spear demo or our Repaying a Debt. And we have a couple ways to maybe build some more stuff during the turn with like Ryukyu Agency or Let's Cut Loose. And Kiyomi also is more untapped or more draws. And the attack lineup is, we have the Ace Maneuver that's going to be the finisher. We have the Lunatic Harris kind of secondary finisher that might be wearing kind of Ace Maneuver junior stats from Finding What Was Lost in our stage. And then kind of the funny things, these aren't really like drinking synergies, except for insofar as maybe we can make it off zone and sneak our damage through that way. But the things we want to be using the drinking response on, be able to, before the attack resolves, before the block step, get it out of the card pool, try it again later. We can use Stun Grenade. And so this is not a synergy in the Ace Maneuver sense. Ace Maneuvers counts at cards that have left the card pool, so all these actions going in and out will pop off with that. But Stun Grenade counts attacks that have left the card pool. So if we, maybe play a Ready Shot and then clear with Thunder Spear demo or whatever, we can play the Stun Grenade, give it +1 to its stun rating because it attacks left my card pool this turn, pick it up with Drinking, and then play it again on a 5. And now it can have Stun 3 because you have 1 more stun rating. And every time we Drinking it, it's going to keep ramping up the stun ratings. We can stun Infinity them, ideally, and then play our Ace Maneuvers to actually win the game, or play our Finding Was Lost to win the game. And the Stun Grenade is also potentially fishing for one of our 2 actual heavy hitter attacks. That Lunatic Harris that'll be completely free, or the Ace Maneuver that can be gigantic, ideally. And also we can have Ready Shot here as like kind of another filler attack that is going to be able to tutor up our Finding What Was Lost or our Power Cycle that could potentially put something useful in our card pool to be able to blow out with Bring Your Friends. And yeah, we also have some backups in here. Kind of the novelty of Bring Your Friends is you have 5 new card ups in your discard pile. This is supposed to be foundations, attacks, actions, assets, and then characters. Because back in the day, you had to play characters to fill that. It was kind of you have the entire rainbow of stuff in your deck. Now it's you could bring your backup friends in addition or alternatively to characters. And so we definitely have to have a backup in here. And yeah, the synergy of Kiyomi plus Thunderspear demo is well documented. I think of you clear your card pool, you ready to get Thunderspear demo, you get pop off. And so we're trying to draw a lot of cards, move a lot of cards around, and try to drink really hard with this deck.
No, it seems absolutely
Okay,
solid.
I dig the vision. I think you did a really good job here. We even found a way to shoehorn Ready Shot in, which is amazing to me that we found space for that. I don't hate it. Normally for me with Ready Shot, I'm a normie brain gamer. I got to use those cards immediately, but Power Cycle and Finding What Was Lost are insanely powerful cards for this deck. So just being able to tutor those up seems fine, though I would definitely prefer like a 1 difficulty action I could play immediately. I'm definitely here
I
for.
did not get deep enough to try to hunt down a really good one for that, but yeah, that would fit really well in here.
How many cards is the deck? Where is it at right now?
Presently 59. This may not be this actually is a classically legal deck. This is 34, 38.
This is a real retro legal deck, actually.
59 plus 1 on
Rochester
accident.
retro. Yeah. Okay, so it's not the biggest offense. That's not too bad. If you were to sit down across from an opponent at a retro event at a regional, and they asked you what your deck did before the game, what would you say?
It depends on how good of a relationship do we have. Would I be comfortable making a bunch of gross masturbation jokes in front of them or not? And if they're a stranger that I want to be respectful towards, I'd say it moves a lot of cards around and tries to get the biggest ace maneuver you've ever seen before.
Okay.
How confident would you feel taking this to a retro event?
Best case, this would be a bit of a glass cannon deck. I think it's kind of hoping that things are going to break my way and it's not necessarily paying a lot of attention to defending itself very well, because we're trying to really max out on the drinking. And drinking bluntly is not an incredibly powerful card, so I think I'm trying to maximize the upside when I'm going to get to do my thing. And if my opponent's going to be playing Scorpion or Goro or something, and is going to try to, or maybe even Iori 2 is a good example of a character that'll just take my head off if I'm not really really invested in stopping him, then it's okay, I'll just die.
Yeah, that's probably how it would go. I'm not gonna lie. Mike Lowe is not the sturdiest character. When it came to building this deck, right? You got the drinking prompt. What was the first card that you added? What was the first card that you, I guess, kind of knew this is going in the deck?
Really, the first card was drinking. I clicked on Forest drinking first.
Well, obviously,
and then
drinking.
The first thing that kind of came to mind that isn't in this deck at all, obviously, was just Airground Smash. Was just what's the most valuable kind of bread and butter thing I can do that lets me pick up and actually get paid to play it again. And then I thought from Airground Smash, I thought of Spirit Sword Thrust. That and I was like, can I make an infinite combo out of this? Can I do something really special out of this? And I decided I don't think that's going to happen. But it kind of led me to the space of Ace Maneuver, really. And then it was oh wait, Ace Maneuver, this is the answer. The name is too perfect. He cannot possibly not be the answer. And then Ace Maneuver made me think of Bring Your Friends too. Of let me get these drinkings in play and let me clear my card pool and then we get rewarded for all this stuff. Just because the text of left my card pool on these cards, the spike cards. And it's that's the line. That's what I'm doing here.
Have you ever sleeved up and played the card drinking before?
I think that I have played with drinking in my deck before. It was a hot minute ago, but I know we played a lot of Wasted Talent, and we made a lot of jokes about Wasted Talent. Was one of is this Hua? Yeah, HWA. This support. And so actually, deep lore, Rochester CCG, the asset that Sean and Field and Jeff won. This response is basically what they wanted on that asset. They wanted it to be okay, you telegraphed you really want to block this. I'm going to get out of the way. I'm going to escape capsule out of the attack. And that's the direction of why it seals the block. Is like they wanted to say, well, I want to beat Templar.
Dude, it's actually crazy how many cards were conceived in New York between the years of like 2013 to 2016 that are just designed to beat Templar. Well, thank you, Broberg. I think this deck is very cool. I think you absolutely nailed the idea of like, how can I make drinking shine? Focusing on the response, probably the harder part to use. So I'm pretty excited. I'll give you a pass on the 59 cards for it being a classically legal retro deck. I won't dock you points for that. But yeah, I love to see we got a good blend of current standard cards and retro cards, which is always fun to see.
Yeah, thank you for the very creative prompt. I think I would never have thought of.
Yeah, we're completely blind on what Cameron's doing. I'm excited.
We'll just show
Are
them
we ready?
Yeah, we're ready. Hit us with that spice.
All right. So, first of all, this is an absolutely crazy card that I have not had the privilege of playing with yet because I only just got my first booster box of Rulers of Time this year.
Ooh.
So I didn't own any drinkings until earlier this year.
It's okay. Neither did I.
That's cool.
I had to
So,
proxy them.
so I kind of hard panicked. Like I was telling you guys when you came to visit me, I had an initial idea because I knew there were cards that could combo with action cards. And it turns out only one of them had drinking symbols, and it was not good. So I scrapped that, and I thought, how do I use the full extent of this card? Not just the response, but also the enhance. And I came up with Elec Man. So Mega Man's what initially got me into the game, and I loved Elec Man. We're not really focusing on the enhance, though, too much here for this build, because we are going to be playing a lot of attacks. We're focusing on the enhanced commit. If there are two different zones in your card pool that do not match your current attack's zone, clear 2 cards from your card pool, draw 3 cards. Well, drinking can help us get that third zone, depending on what we're playing. And the main card that I added was one of my favorite retro cards ever, M3C Devastator Plasma Cannon. As a card
Absolutely.
response, if my rival plays an enhance during this enhance step, they lose 2 health. So that mitigates a lot of the fact that I'm not putting a lot of damage on stuff. Because as long as you're interacting with me, you're losing health. But as a static, if it leaves my card pool during the combat phase, I get to ready my character. So if I clear this and draw 3 cards, I also get to ready Elec Man and do it again. And if I play this and you're like setting its speed to 0, and maybe Elec Man's committed because I've already used its ability, I can drinking, add this back to my hand, ready Elec Man, play M3 Devastator again, and keep going. So that was kind of the main core that I decided to build around. And like Kevin, I decided I had to play Ace Maneuvers, because when you're clearing cards from your card pool, this is your kill condition. And when I can clear 2 to 3 cards from my card pool at a time, this is absolutely going to just buster people. And it's probably one of the fastest cards in the deck. I also added Dagger Strike because I believe, Fury, Ace Maneuvers and MC3 are both tech attacks. So this helps lower my difficulty throughout my string. Plus, it's got a cheeky little stun, and it's a low block or low attack. Most of my attacks are either low or high, with only 1 mid in them, and that's Ackerman's Team Up, which is basically Ace Maneuvers at home. So that can get more stats based on how many cards I've cleared from my card pool. I've got Gut Shot, so if you don't block this, I get to ready my character anyway. I can give it speed to make it faster. And then Dual Blade Rupture, I just get to ready 1 card in my stage that hasn't been ready this combat phase. So if I've committed Elec Man, cleared 2 cards, draw 3, and I play a Dual Blade Rupture, if I haven't readied Elec Man yet, I can just ready him up without M3C. So that way I'm not completely dependent on the Devastator Plasma Cannon. Or I can ready my assets, I can ready my backups, I can ready foundations, because if I did want to use that commit for 3 speed and 1 damage, I'm going to be committing a lot of foundations. So I wanted a lot of foundations that could ready themselves or help me ready my stage. Airship is great because I can just pick up Plasma Cannon, ready my character, or I could pick up, Dual Blade Rupture. I could pick up, if I have a low from where I've cleared my card pool, then I play a high, and then I have a mid in my hand. I can just pick up whatever I need. Of course, for drinking and strategic taunt. This can clear itself, remove itself from the card pool to change my zone of my attack to any other zone. Plus, it gets a little speed and damage. So I wanted a lot of different ways to change my zones, just like drinking does. And this is also a Ruler of Time card, I believe. No, wait. That might be original.
No, this is KOF 13. Yeah, strategic taunt is very much like drinking's handsome big brother when it comes to zone change.
Yeah, the brother that didn't start drinking in college.
Yeah. Drinking is I was gonna say drinking can be more effective, but strategic taunt has that all important remove cost.
Yeah. I got Kiyomi, so when I clear things, I can draw even more cards and ready foundations to continue my string. Servitude for survival. It's got a nice breaker. I can change my zone and get a bit of speed. Moment of Normalcy is good. Warped Intentions. If I do give the 3 speed and 1 damage, I can flip this to give an attack stun 1 to make it even harder to block. I've got some good defense with Mikasa and Rifle Arm here. Requesting Assistance. If I've got momentum, I can ready foundations, which can be very necessary. Destined for Mainstream to try to take 3 checks off the top of my deck. Match Made in Hell. I can target, destroy important defensive pieces on my rival's turn. So I was like, hey, I can see that foundation is going to give me trouble on my next turn. Let's just get rid of it right now. Hell's Reach can ready itself. Wandering Pirate can both ready a foundation when it commits, and it can ready a foundation if it readies itself. So if I ready it with Requesting Assistance or Kiyomi, I can ready another foundation and just keep my stage as vertical as possible. So I knew that had to be here. Forbidden Technique, it just builds me another foundation. Finding What Was Lost gives more damage throughout the turn as I can. United Against Terrorism, again, allows me to ready foundations as I clear cards from my card pool. Unfinished Business can change my zones to mid, as that's the zone I'm missing the most of. So that's pretty fun. Warrior's Discipline, again, changes zones, and if I change a zone to mid, I draw a card. Girl Like Any Other is Speed Hate, and Hand of a Tyrant, I can just destroy to ready my character as needed. So it's kind of this, I want to play these highs and lows to try to rip your highs and lows apart. Change 1 thing to mid, clear 2 things, draw 3 cards, ready my character, rinse, repeat, and just try to kill you in one long string as long as I can get the pieces and ready my stage.
No, it makes a lot of sense.
I can dig it.
Yeah.
I'm a big fan of a lot of these cards. There's actually quite a few pet cards of mine in this list, so I'm really excited to see that. And really, it's really no mystery, right? When I give you a prompt that is a pet card that does things very, very akin to what I'm all about. I want to ask you, give me some details on why we're so spread out, right? Compared to Kevin's list had lots of 4-ofs. I think there's very few 4-ofs, especially almost none in the foundation base except Servitude for Survival. So tell me a little bit about like the consistency of this deck with all these 1s and 2-ofs.
I'll be honest, that's where I started panicking a little bit because the initial build was like 90 cards. So I was desperately trimming some things. And then I was trying to mainly figure out block zones. I had like 40 mid blocks and I think I had like 12 highs. So I was definitely just trying to shore some of that up. So some things that were 4-ofs, like Requesting Assistance, like Destined for Mainstream and Hell's Reach, were kind of trimmed down to fit more of the block zones that I needed so that I wasn't as paper thin on my defense. But things like Servitude for Survival, which this deck very much depends on zone changing, I definitely knew I needed 4 of that. Warrior's Discipline, not so much because it is a mid block, which I already had a bunch of, and it's a 4-check. Unfinished Business, again, it's also a mid block, so I was already pretty dampened on that, and I was basically just trying to figure out what was what I needed to do the most. I need to keep my stage ready, and I need to change my zones. So that's kind of where, I guess I could have like trimmed some of these up to where like instead of a warrior's discipline, I could run like another unfinished business or something like that. But this allows me to draw a card, I believe, and this just gives my attack damage. So it's basically a little bit of, well, they're doing the same thing, but one gives me more damage, one gives me the chance to draw an extra card if I need it. And I was basically just trying to spread out some of those secondary options.
Okay.
How
I
many
like
cards?
a lot of the ingredients here.
How many cards in the deck?
I'm definitely
It is 69 cards.
Nice.
68 plus character.
I don't believe this counts character, so I think it's 69 plus character.
Well, the characters counted at the top because it wasn't the first card you added. So
True. Okay.
yeah,
So
it's a weird quirk with Ultra. If the character is the first card you add, or if you like click on it and select main character, it'll show a 0 there. But when it says one card there, it's not the first card you added, so it is counting it at the bottom.
Okay, so yeah, 68 plus character then.
It's a fun way to fail a deck check for an online event.
Yeah, right?
That being said, I like a lot of the ingredients being used here. I'm definitely a fan of this palette of this type of deck. But can I ask you, have you ever been to Tijuana before?
No, I have not. And I
There
was
is-
thinking of Tijuana groceries, but
Yeah.
I think it was. I think that's one of them. I think I was gonna go back to add that because I was rushing through and then I got called for time. So
Yeah, I think just like compared to the forbidden technique, right? You can build a foundation or you can ready one multiple times. And I think that one it goes a long way towards being able to actually use the stat pump from a Lekman, right? So
Yeah.
I'll give a little, if you ever do want to play this deck at an actual event, Tijuana Groceries is really powerful. And then, yeah, I'm getting to it, Chat's backseating me. The other one, which we saw on Broberg's list, which is an absolute all-star for Lekman. I've played quite a bit of Lekman in retro because of M3C Devastator, is Power Cycle. You definitely missed out on Power Cycle, being able to add the zone you're missing, and most importantly,
yeah.
usually add M3C. So Power Cycle is just like an absolute ball out foundation for Lekman as well. But that being said, I still like a lot of the stuff going on here. This was not an easy prompt at all, especially if you're not, familiar with drinking and, all the different retro cards throughout the years. Can I read Warrior's Discipline really quick?
yeah.
I can't remember if it's the one that clears after it deals or no. No, it changes the zone. That's
No,
right.
changes the zone, and if I change it to mid, which is what I want to do, I get to draw a card.
Sick. Love that. Love that inclusion. Love it when a card is utilized like that. We got the Finding What Was Lost, 2 air decks, 2 ace maneuver decks. You guys did not make this easy for me at all. This one's definitely a bit harder to choose than the last round. Brett, do you have any questions?
I've got nothing. I mean, the prompt was already kind of blindsided me, and then both these decks are really cool, very well utilizing both of the abilities. So I'm out my element here. This is all on you. Well, should we head over to the judge table?
Okay.
You can tell me your thoughts.
Okay. I guess my last question for Cameron is, would you play this at a retro event at a regional?
Now that I have drinkings and I finally got my dual blade ruptures earlier this year, yeah, I'd absolutely play this. I love this kind of like put my rival in a really tough spot and just try to make as endless a turn as possible. I've done things like this with Ryukyu before, where if I get 3 pieces, I'm gonna play forever until you're dead. I definitely would swap the forbidden techniques for the Tijuana groceries. Again, I think I just ran out of time there. And I would definitely find a spot for Power Cycle. I'd get rid of some of these mid blocks and put some of that in there.
Okay. I think I'm ready to make my decision. I don't think we have to do a full
No.
deliberation, Brett.
If you want to just go ahead and talk it out and talk about your decision, and yeah, if you're confident, go for it.
Yeah. So number one, I want to say again, thank you guys both for doing the bake off. I think both of these decks are really cool. I think they did a great job with the prompt. One of the things from past bake offs and when we do stuff like this, it's very tough to find something that is legitimately good while also adhering to, you know, the Iron Chef ingredients. I think I remember the Rakia Katsukami bake off where it was very tough to incorporate, you know, Rakia's game plan versus just generically powerful life and earth symbol cards of the era. So I think you guys did an absolutely great job with a very difficult ingredient. I really wasn't trying to make this easy for anyone. You know, like I said, I thought about doing like a one check with critical split, but Broberg just has a little bit too much experience abusing that card.
Much history.
Yeah. I was telling Brett you played it on 0 foundations turn 0, so pretty nasty stuff. That card is a trip, but drinking is definitely one of my favorites, and I do love that you guys both went to Ace Maneuver for this. It makes a lot of sense off the bat, and it is a little pandering, but that's what we're here to do. I love that Broberg included Bring Your Friends. I think that card is like criminally underrated, especially now that we have like a 6th card type, right, or whatever. Like we've got the backups now to add to the card type, so you don't even have to necessarily water your deck down with buddy blocks and stuff like that. The innate synergy of clearing the actions for bonus damage to then add even more bonus damage. I mean, that deck is just buckets and buckets of damage, and that's always a pretty solid game plan, but it is very combo oriented. I like that we're all in on 4 of the important pieces. Broberg did that with both of his decks today, and it makes it, I'll say it makes it easy in these kind of competitions when the deck is sort of more reduced, right? When the deck is very concise, because we're trying really to evolve on an idea. But that being said, at the same time, I do feel like Broberg's deck would have a lot more non-games. It would have a lot less interaction with the opponent. It would feel a lot more like a, you know, solitaire sort of combo-y deck. So I'm not sure how much I would enjoy it if my deck's not popping off. Whereas Cameron's deck is very much more even-keeled. He's got, you know, a lot more tech pieces. You know, it's a more well-rounded. We had a girl like any other, so we're paying attention to defense. And so it's very tough where on one side, a girl like any other doesn't really add anything to the prompt. It doesn't add anything necessarily to the concept for, you know, how do we use drinking, but it does make it a more complete deck. And that one is, that's kind of where I'm struggling, because I think Broberg's has a cooler use of the prompt overall, but I'm starting to feel like Cameron has made a more complete deck around it. And so I'll be completely honest, I think the tiebreaker here for me personally is just gonna be the number of pet cards, and that means I gotta award the victory to Cameron with the Lekman. I'm a huge fan of a Lekman. I love M3C Devastator combos, and while I do think he was missing like the more powerful pieces, you know, to like Power Cycle and Tijuana Groceries, I do think he made a more complete, well-rounded deck that I would enjoy playing at an event. I think if you handed me both of these decks, I would think that they're very cool at a retro event, but I would see myself having more long-term fun, I think, playing the Lekman deck. And also I'm a, like, again, it's just a pet card number, I think, at this point, between Ace Maneuver, M3C, strategic taunt, you know, there's just so many of those cards that I really enjoyed playing. So I'm going to give the win to Cameron.
Like I said, both decks absolutely amazing. Both decks used the prompts very well. And when it came down to what you were looking for in the decks were kind of indistinguishable using drinking. It was more the personal touches that you found endearing to yourself that has kind of pushed it over the edge? Unfortunately, Broberg, you don't walk away with the win here. Hopefully, we can get you back for season 2 of Bake Off, where you can take part because you judged last time. How are you feeling?
I'm feeling good. I feel like I got to build some cool decks, and I'm happy that. Congrats to the winner. Yeah.
So yeah, Cameron, first time playing, long time watcher. How are you feeling from your win? Did you think when you saw drinking and you saw Broberg's deck, this is where you'd end up?
No, actually, when you first told me who I'd be competing against, I figured I'd be the first one cut. I thought, man, you couldn't put me up against people that would make me look good. But turns out that's the second time I've said that and walked away a winner. So maybe it's me. But no, this was great, and I think maybe if I had more than 30 minutes and I hadn't hard panicked for the first 10, maybe I would have gotten there to the Tijuanas and the power cycles and some other cards that I missed, because I've just been scrolling around here and looking around. I'm like, oh yeah, I could shore that up. I could trim that, and I think if I went at this with a more even head and not the race against the clock panic, I think I probably would have gotten there. Hopefully.
Well, Bake Off needs the panic.
Well, hey, I mean,
we can't sit here for hours while you guys trim your decks and make them perfect.
True.
Yeah,
I think
you really won because you kept an evener head. You built a more fundamentally sound deck, and so I think you clearly did well enough on that dimension.
I think it also helped that I'd built a deck very similar to this before. I just didn't have access to the drinkings, and that kind of opened up a whole new area for me in my head.
Yeah, the M3C Electman synergy is so fun, and then drinking, letting you double, octuple dip on that is just awesome. So that's a great time.
I want to thank you guys both and congratulate you both on making really cool decks with really cool concepts. But Cameron, I do think that Cameron had the more complete deck, and maybe building Electman before that, really helped out, and that's really something I value. Again, with the deck building prompts, like with these competitions, you definitely need to focus in on utilizing that special ingredient, but we also need to be making like fully fleshed out playable decks, and that was really that, plus again the number of pet cards was really just the decider. But I think both of these are really good, and I could see myself trying to play either version of this deck at a retro event myself.
I imagine we're going to see Cameron.
Is it bad that I forgot about Ace Maneuvers as a pet card when I added it in, and it wasn't until I looked back over to the Discord chat that I realized?
I mean, that just shows how strong the synergy is, right?
Yeah, exactly.
Oh yeah.
I mean, all three bakers did amazing jobs throughout both of the rounds. Connor, if you're watching here, great job in round 1. Broberg, again, you absolutely knocked it out of the park. It's been great having you judging season 1 and participating here. And Cameron, congratulations on the win. For those people that come across Cameron at a retro event, you now know what he's going to be playing, so plan accordingly.
I actually did a similar deck build like this with Wen from Cowboy Bebop, so that was ridiculous.
And a big shout out to
M3C Wen is gross.
Yeah, I was actually showed on stream playing Jacob Johnson's
Ew, that's gross.
It was absolutely disgusting, and I reveled in it.
Finally, a big shout out
deserve
to Sam Ace Maneuvers for judging, for coming up with such an amazing prompt and pushing these builders to go to the biggest pet deck cards they could possibly come by. Now I will hand over to yourselves, starting off with Broberg, where people can find your content and find a little bit more of you.
I've been trying to, I guess, build this brand sort of Build UVS. I'm now presently live on Twitch. And trying to figure out if I want to continue streaming after we wrap up here. But I'm also part of the Forchex cast, and I made a Substack that I posted one thing to, and I'm also on Discord all the time. So talking about Discord is the main social media I use. Far too much, but I'm just bro there. And if you're in the community, you can probably talk to someone who knows how to find me. So, but I'll try to produce content on Build UBS, and we'll continue to be doing that. I don't know, for the immediate future. So check me out there, follow me, and get some peak Universus in your life.
Exactly. Check out Broberg's Build UVS and find out what the current world champions get up to. If you're a new player looking to find out what keyword abilities and what abilities and cards do, or looking for new builds the day of release of sets, UVS Hermit is the place to go. Where can we find you?
I'm UVS Hermit on Discord, on YouTube, and also on Twitch, although I don't stream very much because I always forget how to do it. And actually, it's been great being here because I've been working on a retro series where I'm going to retrofit all of the starter decks from Jasco's retro era and show newer players how to pick these up and how to kind of change them up. So this has been really good for me, and I'm good. I'm going to be happy to share all that here in the near future.
Absolutely awesome. And finally, if you're looking for some of the best events in the community, some of the best content in the community, and easily the best memes in the community, check out Ace Maneuvers. Where can we find you?
Yeah, YouTube Ace Maneuvers. I Twitch stream events now, once in a blue moon. Next event we're looking for, I think a week before the Rochester Regional, MHA Spotlight on TTS. I'm still looking at pricing for that, so nothing's official yet, but that should be a TTS online event, digital MHA Spotlight. So even if you started playing Universes in the last year or so and you never got to play with MHA Set 1, card availability won't be an issue. And then the next Webcam Warriors is almost certainly going to be January. Again, I don't have dates nailed down yet because I like to get the pricing situated before making things official. But that's where you can find me. I'm also going to be in Atlanta. I'm going to be playing, not casting for once, and it's going to be my last opportunity to qualify for the World Championship. If I don't earn a day 2 invite, I'm probably going to be working Worlds instead of playing. So I'm looking to make this one. I'm looking to make this one count.
Fair enough. Well, thanks you guys for doing this. Absolutely love it. You guys did smash it out of the park from all aspects of it. And for Connor, who's not here, check him out as on Twitch. It's CDog. He plays a lot of Dead by Daylight. And check out the Dobbers for a lot of UVS content around the UK and retro and that aspects. And check out, imagine they're big Guilty Gear fans, so they've got some stuff going on there. I'll let you guys get on and enjoy the rest of your day, and I'm going to go get some food because it's almost 7 p.m. Big shout out.
Amazing.
Big thanks for being here, and let me know if you guys want to take part in season 2 of the Great Universus Bake Off, because after this, I'm hyped to get that train wheel going as well. I'll see you all in a bit.
See ya.
Bye.
Bye.
No, that's great. Thanks, bud.